NelsonJoypad.com bring you another original. It's fucking great.
I'm too old for this shit. It's a simple enough phrase, but one that any self-respecting movie fan will recognise. It's right up there with, I have 2 days till retirement. And it's that thought that was running through my head as I played Team 17's new title, LA Cops. LA Cops is a strange game. I can't figure out if the developers were deliberately making fun of the cop genre, or if they were trying to honour it, or possibly a little bit of both. In LA Cops, you'll take control of a squad of old school, loosely stereotyped cops. There's the possibly corrupt officer with a bad comb over, the female cop who isn't accepted because she's a woman, and the shouting police captain who complains about everything. It's a well-worn bag of tropes that ultimately falls through in respect to the plot by means of the few short cutscenes that we're provided with. Having control of the numerous cops is pretty redundant, as you can only take 2 detectives with you per mission, and each character has to be upgraded individually, but more on that later. At first glance, I thought LA Cops was some kind of turn-based strategy game, in the same vein as Omerta, City of Gangsters, or Company of Heroes. And while the top-down perspective and roofless buildings give that impression, it is in fact not a turn-based game at all. And not much of a strategy game either. You and your partner have to attend call-outs and missions taking on LA's criminals, terrorists, and organised crime in real time. There's a vague semblance of a plot, but I have to say that it makes no difference to the experience. There are only a dozen or so missions available, including side missions, and the characters are never given any time to really come through. The writing can be funny at times, the police captain complaining about the budget got a chuckle out of me, but for the most part the characters have no impact and are ultimately forgettable. In each mission, you must arrest or kill criminals, save any hostages, and in some cases, destroy drug caches. You can switch between the 2 chosen cops, move, fire, pick up weapons and issue move commands to your partner, all in game. Moving through each level is fraught with hazards, especially before you get the chance to level up your cop's attributes. A lucky gunman or a sneaky crook can take you down quickly, and this will leave your other character to either carry on the mission themselves, or search for a med pack to revive your fallen cop. If truth be told, it can often be too much to ask the player to navigate through the levels, which are well designed, with both the cops simultaneously, something that the game designers seem to want you to do. The AI of your partner is terrible, and if left to their own devices, they'll undoubtedly die. I saw one of my characters get gunned down by a single enemy with a handgun as he carried a freaking grenade launcher. It was painful to watch. The minute-to-minute gameplay is pretty good. The difficulty does spike regularly, so I had to go back and replay earlier missions, a lot, so that I could level up my characters. This is why having such a large selection of characters seems overkill to me. Each cop needs to be upgraded individually, and with an average of 3 or 4 upgrade points being earned per mission, it can take a while. I found that I quickly picked 2 cops and focused on upgrading them. It was a bit of a grind, but it did pay off in the end. There are several weapons that you can choose from, and swapping out an empty handgun for a shotgun felt like a Lethal Weapon movie. In combat, you'll need to lock onto your enemies by pressing the X button. If you don't, it does get tricky to hit anything with the free aim by using the analog stick. Once you get onto later levels of LA Cops, all you need to do is tap X and right trigger repeatedly to wipe out a whole room of bad guys. It's not a bad system in any regard, but I felt that it wasn't as tight as I'm used to in my shooters. I played through the whole game and I'm still not sure what I make of the art design. It had a retro feel to it that sits well with the old school cop setting, but the animations in the cutscene didn't do anything for me. Aside from a few exceptions, the voice acting missed the mark. It was too rough to be considered a serious attempt at a story, but not bad enough for it to pay homage to the Starsky and Hutch era of television that I think LA Cops was aiming for. LA Cops seems to lack conviction in itself, to me at least. It's a pretty fun game to play after repeating the first mission time and again to level up your characters. The missions provide a good challenge, but the friendly AI means that you really can't rely on it to cover your back. When LA Cops gets it right and the planets align, I had a blast playing my way through the drug lord penthouses, casinos, and even a police station. I can't help but feel that it would have been a much better game if it had the option for a multiplayer mode. With a friend controlling the second cop, many of these problems wouldn't exist, but they linger in the periphery of the single player gameplay. LA Cops missed its mark with me, playing it too cautiously to be a piss take, but it didn't invest the time into the story or the characters to make me think this is a serious game. Instead, it floats somewhere between the two. Once you take the time to grind, LA Cops turns into a decent little shooter, but repeating the same level over a dozen times? I'm too old for that shit. LA Cops is a game that I'm sure some people will love, and I'm sure that some people will hate it. I was somewhere in between with my playthrough. There were times that I simply couldn't take another run through of the donut shop mission, and others when nothing on earth could stop me from blowing my way through bad guys to find piles of drugs that Tony Montana would be impressed by. I don't really know what else to say. LA Cops is worth a try if you can stick with it, but it's not without its faults.